not sure what was more hard to believe, LeBron's bad game or the Celtics winning despite being a 16.5-point underdog, making their comeback the biggest NBA postseason upset in the last 20 seasons. Raise your hand if you had Marcus Smart, who started in place of IT, going for 27. Speaking of IT, he spoke to the team via FaceTime after the big win, and his absence has spawned all kinds of hot takes about whether or not he's needed on this Celtics team or whether or not they have a better chance now that he's not playing. Some kind of indictment about how much he's actually needed as their leader. Yes, we have arrived at this point in the conversation because that's what one win in this series can do for
He's probably going to be a
Celtics.
top 5 MVP candidate this year. Probably going to finish in the top 5 of ballots. Led the league in fourth quarter scoring. And after one game, let's add this up. See, this is why you got to get your story straight. Not you. I'm talking about people in general. Let's add this up. So the Cavs were disinterested. They didn't show up, yet the Celtics are better off without Isaiah Thomas. So which one is it?
Right.
The Celtics who came into this series with people like you, and look, you couldn't have predicted the way game 1 and 2 were going to go, and you didn't know about Isaiah Thomas's injury.
I predicted they win 2 games. Thank you.
I'm throwing you a lifeline. Point being,
like
the people who thought that the Celtics might give the Cavaliers a run in this series thought so because of what you saw last night. Depth, a well-coached team, a gritty team. After Friday night, it looked like they just had nothing for the Cavaliers. But they're a different team against the Cavaliers in terms of ball movement and defense without Isaiah Thomas on the court. That does not make them a better team without Isaiah Thomas. You think Danny Ainge watched that game and say, come to think of it, Isaiah's 5'9" and the defensive liability.
This just
Let's trade him.
This just in. Like, as if he didn't realize this up until now. First of all, we have to understand, per Jackie McMullen and all the conversation in general, whether or not IT is meant to be with the Celtics long term was always a conversation. All right, that didn't just.
Danny Ainge is very Belichickian.
That's what I'm saying. It didn't just start with what happened with last night's game, and so I'm not going to walk away from that game certainly with any sweeping indictments about what it means about IT and whether or not he's the type of player that you can win a championship with, or whether or not the Celtics would hit the panic button and decide, you know what, he's the reason why we can't get past the Cavaliers. I think in general that how they played Cleveland was going to just be a factor in terms of how they built the team. And that's typical to me in the NBA because you build teams based off who's the best team and how can we beat them. That's why the Cavs all of a sudden, they have a lot of three-point weapons because they're looking at Golden State. That's the way it works.
Yeah, look, maybe you have that much more leverage or something else to think about if you, in fact, draft Markelle Fultz and you have the 2018 first round, and maybe you look at whether or not to max Isaiah Thomas slightly differently than you did before. Real quick, though, on this series, one game, because I look at this as you could blink and this could be 7. And I'm not hear me out.
Okay.
If you blink.
I'm all in.
Listen, there were a lot of things that you could look at and chalk up as unsustainable. Marcus Smart primarily last night, okay? Or just LeBron being what he was last night or who he wasn't. All the Celtics have to do is win game 5. And now you go back to Cleveland for 6. And if you can get it back to Boston, look, I'm still taking every game. I'm still betting on LeBron James's team. But I'm saying with the fact that they have a game 7 in their back pocket, what last night should have done is convince the Cavs that not to fool around with it, but do it expeditiously when it comes to killing this team.
Yes.
Like beat them game 4 and go into game 5. Don't let them start building confidence and get into 6 and get it back to Boston for game 7.
I don't think it's going to get that far.
I don't either, but we didn't think they would come back from 3-1 against the Warriors. Different teams, I know, but this is how it starts.